My guest Anna's verbally abusive husband cheated on her. He moved out and said he wasn't coming back ever. How does anybody come back from that with a loving, happy, safe marriage later? Well, Anna did it, and she's going to tell us how, so you can do it too. Anna, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so excited you're here. I can't wait to hear this story.
I am so excited. It's going to make me cry from the beginning. The backstory is between you and God have been the best thing that's happened in my life. And I truly would not have been able to survive without you. So I feel like we've been friends, even though it's only been actually since I found you in September of 24, and here we are in May of 25. So
amazing. Well, I'm so happy we're friends. We've been friends since September.
Me too.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. So the battle days, I didn't realize how bad it was until I read your books, but I'm going to tell you the backstory. I met my husband. I was very young. I was 19. We started dating when I was 20, and we came from totally different worlds. I came from a family that had a decent social standing in society. I came from like seemingly a good family. My family was very religious. No one had divorces. No one had scandals that were public. Everyone has skeletons, but nothing that was public. And my husband came from a really rough background of very poor divorces throughout his family, drug and alcohol abuse. And so we just came from different worlds. Well, when he met me, he was like instantly head over heels, and he spoiled me all the time. And the bad part was I obviously did not realize I was not a good receiver. And he proposed to me he went to the jewelry store and he said, I want the most expensive ring you have at the jewelry store.
Oh my gosh.
And I was 20 years old. He brought me this really elaborate ring. He proposed to me and I made him return it because I was like, that's too much. You don't need to spend that much money. I'm thinking, I need to be frugal. We're going to have this life together. So I realized the battle days started at the beginning because I would make him return gifts. He would love to shower me with things. We got married when I was 21. And I remember for my birthday, my 22nd birthday, he bought me a brand new car. And he also brought me a designer handbag and a ring. And my birthday, I had a really bad headache. And I said, can you go get me medicine? And he goes down and brings it up in this new designer purse with the ring in it and the keys to this car. And I made him return it because I was like, that's so sweet, but I don't need this, right? And so basically it had started where I was telling him what to do, not accepting gifts and not realizing that I was rejecting him. So it basically had started from the battle days for a long time. One thing that I did not is on the surface, I came from a good family, but my father owned his own business and started doing drugs when I was in middle school. And my mother stayed home and took care of us children. And I kind of blamed her because I thought if she had made money, my dad wouldn't have been stressed and had to go and do drugs, right? So when I got married, I wanted to be the best wife ever. And I was like, I'm going to do all these wife things, take care of the house, but also I'm going to work. So my husband is never stressed and never will do drugs, right? In my mind.
Yes, you can keep him from doing drugs by being the perfect wife.
Yeah, being the perfect wife. I don't want my husband to be stressed. I'm going to be the perfect wife. And so I started out, I thought I was the perfect wife. Everyone thought I was a perfect wife, actually. Like he would get comments that, they would wish they had a wife like me because I did so much and I was happy and all these things. And, but it was exhausting. And we had our child. We had struggled to conceive a child. And I started a business and he started a business. And I remember just working crazy hours to do everything. And being really unhappy because I didn't feel like he was pulling his weight. And so I would complain and would complain about all the stuff I was doing for him, for our family, for the businesses. And I just never felt like he did what I needed him to do. So I complained and I told him how unhappy I was. And I guess this went on for since 2010. I guess, well, we got together in 2004. 2010, we had our child. And so I guess it's been bad from the beginning. But I would complain, but I thought I'm the perfect wife. So he's got to be happy. And if he could only do things better, right, then this would be perfect. So I remember contemplating, sometimes just being so disgruntled, thinking, oh, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to leave him because he doesn't deserve me. But then I always came back to, I love this man and he's who I want to spend my life with. So then I would just kind of get over, he wasn't doing what he needs to do and he's probably not going to change. And we went on like that. 2000, fast forward, we both own our own businesses, and 2022, we had decided to adopt a child from another country. And it was something we both decided to do. We actually had been in the process of doing it for 5 years. And in 2022, it finally came to fruition and we were able to adopt him. And he was an older child. He was 15. Our bio son is 4 years younger than him. So our bio son was 11 and we had 11-year-old and a 15-year-old. And so we went to another country to adopt him. We were there for a month. And when I came back, my father, who I became really close with as I got older, passed away pretty quickly within 2 weeks of coming home. And I don't think I didn't realize all of the bad that, the control and all this stuff. And I'm still trying to manage everything, bringing this new child in. And my husband wasn't acting how I thought he should act. Right. And he needs to be, in my mind, he needed to, now we have a new child who needs a father who's a really active role. And so I knew my husband had all these skills to be a great dad because he always was to our other child. And, but things just weren't going how I felt like they should go. So there was a lot more complaining, a lot more control of how things were, telling him how to be a dad. Because of course I know how to tell someone how to be a dad because I'm a wonderful dad, right? So
The perfect dad, actually.
I'm the perfect dad. So it went on and went on, and it was really frustrating because my husband pulled away from us. I felt like I had to overcompensate because my husband stopped wanting to be around me and the children. And I'm also struggling with, the painful loss of my father and adding on this child. And I felt so alone. So the complaining got worse. Feel like I'm a single mom, and not really wanting to ever complain to anyone about him because I just wasn't like that. I just kind of kept things in. But I did probably complain a couple of times, sometimes to people, but very little because I just didn't feel like that was appropriate. Fast forward again, and December 23, I got really, really ill and I was hospitalized and my husband wasn't home. He was away with a friend to another state on a house we owned. And I was pretty sure drinking was involved. That had happened a lot, drinking. He had gotten of drinking a lot and really just being really ugly to me and the kids. And so when I called him, I was hospitalized. I was devastated because I was there for 3 days and he didn't come home.
You're kidding.
And I thought, what an awful person, here I'm hospitalized. We don't know if I'm going to live or die.
Oh my gosh.
We have children that need their father and I need you and he's not there. And, sure, like the whole time I complained, and, he ended up coming right when I was getting discharged from the hospital. And I remember being so angry, like, why did you bother coming now? You know, like, shouldn't have come. So when we got home, I told him how unhappy I was and I wanted a divorce. I was like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm so unhappy. And then he had the audacity to say to me, you're unhappy. I'm unhappy. I want a divorce. And I was shocked because I'm thinking, I'm the perfect wife. I've done everything for you. I've done everything for our family. I've sacrificed so much of my life. Like, I didn't go have fun and do things with friends because I couldn't, I had to be the perfect mom and the perfect wife and take care of the house and work. And somehow we just kind of went on, and we didn't really talk about it because we didn't really have like major blow up fights, but we would have like cold wars and things, but it wasn't like screaming matches or anything. And so we kind of just unspoken, just kind of kept moving with life. And I guess I probably thought he doesn't really mean that. And he probably thought I didn't really mean it. I don't really know if he thought that or not. So this is the part I didn't tell in the thing. So fast forward a month later. So this was December 23, January 24th. I took my children snowboarding. He didn't come with us. I went by myself, and I come home and my husband is cleaning guns in his garage. I always thought he was really safe. I never worried about him because he was very methodical about things. But he kept guns in the garage. He had a big gun safe. And because they were in the garage, he felt like he needed to clean them periodically. He never even shot them. He had I think during the pandemic, thought he was going to take up a hobby of building guns and going to the gun range, but he never did. Anyways, the gun went off in his hand and it shot me through the pelvis.
Oh my gosh.
So that's the part I did put in this thing. I didn't know. So I didn't know if you wanted that in the video or not. But so anyway.
And it was an accident.
It was an accident. And there's no documentation of this, but my husband and the children, because they were there, all said I died that day.
Oh my gosh.
It was in my pelvis, which I found out is like, I thought that was a safe spot, but I guess with all your arteries and everything, it's really unsafe place to be shot. So my children and my husband said before the ambulance came that my body went stiff, my eyes were open, they rolled back in the back of my head, and I wasn't breathing. And I came to after when the ambulance 911 came, and I went to the hospital, and my life started changing. Actually, when I went to the hospital the first time, my life started changing. I realized that I was kind of an unhappy person. I was a rager, and I would be super happy. Everyone saw me as this wonderful, kind person, but then I would have a breaking point and I would rage with my children if things weren't perfect. And I would probably sometimes rage at my husband. And so one thing that did start changing when I was hospitalized, I always said it was the beginning of the best thing that happened, is I just realized how precious life was. And I'm Christian. I am a follower of Christ and disciple. And so I realized I really wasn't living my life how I thought I should be. So it was actually really wonderful, and I was full of joy. And when I came out of the hospital, I had emergency surgery and there was no damage. And they were like, this is not even possible. It went straight from my right side to my left side of my pelvis, which they said is not even possible. And I have the scars to prove it. And I thought in my mind, I came home and I knew it was an accident. Like, I prayed about it, that they thought it was an accident. And I just really felt at peace that it was an accident. And I thought, now we can start over. This is our fresh start. So I jokingly said to my husband, he came home. He was in the hospital longer than me, actually, for his injury through his hand. But I said, look, we can start over. You shot me and I'm okay and I can forgive you. So I thought this was a start over for us. And it was like happy. And I was happy I was super happy. He was not. He had developed PTSD and he was really angry that I was so happy about this. I had no trauma. I could go into the place that happened was in our garage. I could go in there and I had no trauma. And life was just great for me. I went to therapy and they were like, you're right. You're not experiencing any trauma. You're not Um, so everything was fine. And I was just feeling so blessed. And my husband was not happy. And the drinking got worse. And the pulling away got worse. And I thought, I don't understand. How did this get worse when we're supposed to be in a better place now? And anyway, it got worse and worse and worse. It was so bad. I self-diagnosed him that he was a narcissist because I looked up, and I Googled and
Right.
told me
Took a
that yes,
quiz,
my
right?
husband's a narcissist. He's verbally abusive to me and the children. Um, and yeah, and I nothing was getting better. One of the great things I did, because I'm so helpful, is when my husband told me he had PTSD, I said, well, you need to get therapy. And I found the counselor for him because I'm very helpful. And so I found the counselor for him. And, I would get involved and I would talk to the counselor every now and then and update him on my husband so he can help him. And things just got worse. And I did not understand. And I would think about divorce, but I was like, I'd always come back to, I know who he really is and I love him and I'd rather be with him and not have him. And even though we're in a really bad place, we've been in bad places before, nothing like this, but it's going to get better. And we're going to use this as an experience to share with someone else. Cause I'm really big on, going through things and then sharing so someone else doesn't have to go through the pain. And so I thought we're going to go through this and we're going to have a great, amazing story to tell someone. And that was my thought. And things just got worse. I had discovered that I think there was an emotional affair going on with another woman my husband worked with, colleague. And there was inappropriate, messages of maybe it wasn't inappropriate, but on social media, they were messaging each other a lot. And I would casually see it and he would get really upset with me and felt like I was controlling him about the phone. And I just didn't understand. And anyways, it got worse and worse. And he, at one point I'd even would get his friends involved of hey, this is really inappropriate. They would side with me and he would just be like, this is not inappropriate. And he was every day, even though he would come home, we have an outdoor area, an outdoor kitchen, and he would be out there by himself. And the kids and I we didn't have dinners together anymore. We used to have family dinner. Got really bad. And anyways, it was funny. In June, it was so bad. June of 24, he had asked me to get marriage counseling with him. And in my mind, why am I I was so angry at him that I thought, no, nothing you suggest, I'm not going to do. You suggesting a marriage counselor? I'm not going to marriage counselor. You're the one suggesting this. So obviously you think I'm the problem. So I was like, no. So I refused to do marriage counseling because I'm like, you're the problem, and I would tell him all the time, you drink too much, you do this, you do that. And of course, I know obviously had to be perfect for his life. So I'm telling him all the perfect things to do to make his life better. And so I refused. The next month, it just progressed. It got worse. And so finally I said, okay, let's do marriage counseling. And so we did one marriage counseling actually with his therapist and it didn't go over well. And so then we looked for another marriage counselor and we didn't leave angry. I hear a lot of people have marriage counseling problems. They left angry, but we didn't leave angry, but it never got better. We never had anyone who could give us steps of to do. And, and also this marriage counselor was great. He never blamed either one of us, but it was wasn't giving any one of us steps on how to. So we were just the definition of insane, doing the same thing over and over again. So we were just doing this insane cycle. It wasn't getting any better. And so crazy enough, I had reached out to very few friends. I had to let them know what was going on. But a girl that I'm friends with, I reached out to her one night and I just told her a story about something I had done I didn't think was significant at all. I told her how I asked my husband to pray for me. And she said, wow, that's so respectful of you. And I thought, respectful? it never occurred to me as a woman of faith. I always thought like, yeah, I'm a good wife. I'm respectful. I always thought that, but I realized when she said it, it occurred to me. I didn't really know what that looked like. So I Googled, what does a respectful wife look like? And I found you. And I don't know why, but I was instantly really drawn to you. And I downloaded the Audible book. The first one I did was The Surrendered Wife. And in your book, you actually say like something to the effect of like, if the husband is like an alcoholic, this is not going to help you. And, in my mind, my husband was an alcoholic, and he was in my mind, he's verbally abusive and an alcoholic. But I read your book anyways. And I thought, and I remember actually a couple of times I stopped because I was like, why, what's the point if no one can help him? But I decided to read the book, and, I felt like, which I've heard so many women say, I felt like you were had a camera in my house, and you knew. I was like, how does this woman know everything? This has been my marriage. And how does she know this? This was like everything. And I started being really accountable. And I started feeling awful because I was like, wow, I thought I'd been this great wife. And I do know I'm a good wife, but I didn't realize how much damage I had done to my husband. I thought, and then there was something I read, I can't remember if it was you, I think it was on one of your podcasts, that a lot of women will mother their husbands and honor their children. And I realized I had done that. And I acted in my mind, I realized I acted like my husband wasn't capable when he needed me. I think I felt like probably I come from a better family, so I know better. All these things. Maybe I even thought I was smarter than him. And I started looking at all these things, and I realized he wasn't. I mean, he was smarter than me, and he didn't need me for all these things that I thought he had. And I just felt awful. I thought, I don't want my children, my boys, to ever grow up and marry a disrespectful woman like me. And so that was the beginning of my journey, because I thought, even if I can't fix my marriage, I can fix myself, and I don't want my kids to marry a woman like me. Even on the surface, every person we knew thought I was this great wife. And I was like, I can't have my boys doing this. And so I got really obsessed with you. And I got to the point, it was funny. I think I must have talked to my husband about you before I got to the point it says, don't tell your husband. Because at one point I even told him like, oh, well, because he would talk about things I didn't mention is like over the summer, after I started marriage counseling, he would threaten divorce all the time. Like he wanted to leave me. There was no repairing it. There was nothing I could do. He was so unhappy with me. He was miserable. And he couldn't be the person he wanted to be with me because I had made him so unhappy. And so he would say this, like these things. And I was like, well, I might not be able to fix him and I, but I'm going to fix myself. But I told him at one point, I said, because he would tell me these things. And so sometimes I wasn't dignified and respectful as I'm going through this journey, because he would talk about getting divorced and even talk about maybe he had a future wife or something. And like, we were going to be friends.
Oh,
And I remember saying like several times when I found you, I said, well, the thing is about me, I'm now learning how to be a respectful wife. And most other women have discovered Lord Doyle, so you're going to have the same problem with another woman. And so I would say that. And that really didn't change anything. But it was funny. I thought like I was like dignified of like, look, I found kind of like whatever the secret was the other women hadn't found. So I told him about you. And I guess that was probably bad because it's actually taken me longer to do things because he thought I was manipulative. So I read the first book, The Surrendered Wife, then I read The Empowered Wife. And then, well, actually, let me rephrase that. I didn't read them. I listened on Audible.
yeah.
And so I realize that I'm listening. Sometimes I'm distracted doing other things. And so you would have said in one of your books about your podcast, but I didn't hear it because I obviously must have skipped it one time. But then I somehow stumbled upon your podcast. which is so funny because I don't even know how it came up on my podcast. I tried to recreate what happened later and I never could find you again. But the podcast came up and I got really obsessed with listening to your podcast. Like that became for me like just medicine to my soul. I would listen to like 2 podcasts a day and sometimes more. But I was trying so hard to fix everything that I had damaged and broken. But so I did everything except self-care. And so I was trying to fix me, and I was probably a little too much because I was like super insane about this. And my husband wasn't getting any better, and still very distant, drinking a lot, very mean to me and our children, and just say like awful, awful things to us. And I'm like, this is not the man that I've known for, all these years. At this point, it was 20 years that I've been with my husband. And I thought I was in the worst part, because I'm on this journey of recovering with you. And I discovered my husband was having an affair.
Oh, my God.
And that killed me. What made it worse is when I discovered it, he is not, he acknowledged it and he was like, yeah, but he said, I don't want to be with you. I don't know if I want to be with her, but I know I don't want to be with you. And
Anna.
that was really painful.
So painful.
But here's what was amazing. I had found you. So before I even discovered the affair, I'd already forgiven him for the affair. And not that I was saying what he did was okay, but I started owning my side of the street of what was my part in this. So when I discovered the affair, I didn't have a rage session like the previous Anna would have. Which is crazy because if you had asked me a year ago, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would have said there's never an excuse for adultery. You never forgive that. That's so unforgivable. But when I was in the moment in this season, because I already had discovered where what I had my part in things, I had and I love when you say is like, you decide, do I want this or not? And it's my choice. And I knew even then, like, I want to be with this man.
Oh.
And I knew this man and he doesn't know he wants to be with me. Right. So he ended up moving out of the house. And I just at that point, I obviously couldn't do anything. Right. I have no control, but I was really encouraged because again, I was like, well, I can fix myself. So the previous month I had done everything but nothing about self-care. And I actually did do 2 private sessions with Coach Lynn. And I remember the first time she asked me, what did you do for self-care? And I wasn't doing anything for myself because I felt like I had so much to fix on everything else that I didn't have time to fix myself, right? I'll do it eventually. And so I started actually taking care of myself, which is funny. It's not what you love. I discovered Pilates.
Oh, no. Anna, I thought we were friends.
I know we are, but I love Pilates and I've never enjoyed working out and it made me happy.
Oh my God.
And it made me super happy. And I started doing other things for myself. And I realized like, this is going to sound silly, but listening to your podcast was self-care for me because I would never even give myself that time in the morning to do anything for myself. It was about like keeping my house straight, doing the dishes, doing laundry before work, getting my kids ready. And I wasn't doing any of that. And I realized along the way, I really lost who I was a long time ago. And so I just worked on getting myself happy. And I was like ridiculously happy. And I really was. And the people that knew what was going on just expected that I was going to be, on the floor crying every day. My husband's left and I have 2 children to raise and I was just happy. I mean, yeah, there was moments of like fear, but I realized like, okay, what could I control? And I also knew like, I felt like God wasn't letting me fail. And, so I just kept on this journey. And so it was funny when he first left, the very first week, we had a lot of conversations about our children because things would come up. It was like, of course, the perfect storm. All these things were happening with our kids. And my husband said to me before that he wanted me to always tell them when things came up with our children. And so I would call him and I would say, this is going on. And he would be really mean to me. Like he felt like I was manipulating him or something to have a conversation. So one day I remember I said to him, if you're going to act like I'm the enemy, then I just can't bring things to you, you know? And I normally never, I mean, I wasn't rude, but I was just matter of fact of like, you're treating me like I'm this crazy person, like you don't know me and you know me. I felt like he had started believing I was this awful person. I felt like there was a lot of manipulation on this OW side, that I was somebody that I wasn't. And I reminded him, regardless of what happens with you and I, you know who I am. I'm a good person. I am a kind person. That's always who I am. And this is not. So it was funny. I don't know what happened or even how it happened because we haven't gotten to the other side or he's told me. But a week after this, he came to me and said, would you date me?
Oh,
And I said, is this just me and you dating? And he said, yeah, exclusively me and you dating. Because I didn't ask anything about the OW. You had said, don't ask anything, don't give them oxygen. So I didn't ask. I didn't know if he was talking to this OW anymore. I didn't know anything. And so we started dating and it was so fun. And
he was saying like, will you be my girlfriend? Right?
yeah, and we just were dating again, and it was fun. We went on dates, and he would take me places that we hadn't been, and talked, and then he asked if he could move back home, and um, we had been meeting. So we stopped. What I didn't mention is we stopped going to marriage counseling, um, because when I discovered you and I realized it wasn't working anyways, I had suggested let's just stop marriage counseling. But we were meeting with our pastor weekly. And or we were meeting first at weekly, but then when he moved out, we really weren't meeting, especially because he said when he had moved out, he was never coming back. And, you know,
Never
he even told
coming
our
back.
pastor,
Like,
he
this
never
is
came
it.
back. He even told our pastor, I don't want to be with Anna. I don't know who I want to be with, but I don't want to be with her. And so our pastor was like, well, there's nothing I can do, you know, so we stopped meeting with him. But then when we started dating, we started meeting with our pastor again. And so when he wanted to move back home, our pastor felt like he needed to have some accountability. And so he met with our children and us, and our pastor met, and my husband confessed what he had done. And he apologized to our children, apologized to me. And he really did take accountability of what had happened. And so he moved back home. And it's funny, so I'm awful storytelling, so sorry for jumping around. But one of the things that had happened is when things got really bad is we stopped doing fun stuff together. Um, Probably because I wasn't fun anymore, I guess. I was telling him how to do things. And he actually said at one point, he doesn't like, we used to love traveling. That was our thing. We would travel together a lot. And he said he doesn't even want to travel with me. So when he moved back home, I started really expressing my desires of things, which I realized I had never done. You know, I was just expecting him to read my mind of what I wanted. So he moved back home and he started just doing things for me, simple things. But one of the things that was always a dream of mine was to go to Germany during Christmas. And what you have to understand with my husband, he is not a person that will ever do anything because he feels bad. You cannot manipulate him or make him feel bad. He won't. If you make him feel bad, he will do the opposite. And
Gotcha.
so he decided to take us and me and our boys for Christmas to Germany during Christmas, which is something I had been basically begging for 20 years.
Wow.
And then the funny thing was he wanted us to go first class, me and my husband, and then the boys were going to go regular class. The old Anna would have been like, no, that's too much money. And I probably wouldn't have even let him take me to Germany, to be honest. Like it would have been a dream of mine, but the cost would have been too much. But I received. And I was like, if he wants to spoil me with a vacation and a dream trip, let it be. Um,
Wow.
and anyways, we just started having fun together. And I realized a lot of my problems were I didn't give him space to feel safe. I was criticize him. And he started talking to me and he would tell me things I didn't. Sometimes it was painful things because when he came home, and like I said, we're still not through it yet. He came home, but he would say things sometimes like, well, I don't know if this is going to work. I don't know if our marriage is going to work. And,
Oof.
he might be gone again. But because I had really believed in this journey with you, instead of being hurt, because before the old Anna would have been hurt and said something really hurtful back, I decided, you know what? I'm thankful that he's sharing this with me. He feels safe with me to share with me how he feels, even if it's not reality. That's how he feels today. And so I started just being so thankful that he would talk to me because he stopped talking to me. He was always my best friend, but I stopped being his best friend. And he would tell me that as like we would go on, and he's like, well, you're not my best friend. And,
Ooh.
but I realized I had caused that. It wasn't him. He had been the same person. I just was trying to be helpful and make him better. And so I would criticize his friendships, criticize, how he parent. I would criticize, the drinking and all these things. And anyway, so then fast forward, it's kind of funny actually. Part of the story is, and so again, I skip around and there's a lot. We had tried having children for a long time and we could not have children. We had one biological child. It took us over 5 years to have our first biological child. And then we never prevented. And we always tried having children. It just wasn't happening. And so funny story here. I'm 40 years old. We've been together since I was 19. I get pregnant in December.
Oh my gosh.
I don't want to get pregnant in December. Because also what had happened when I found you, I was so excited. I started taking care of myself. I lost 55 pounds. I had
Wow.
struggled to lose weight before, but once I found you and realized I was having more time for things, I started giving up all these things. And even though I was getting more accomplished, I had more time. I wasn't worrying about what everyone else is doing. I was relinquishing control and all these things. And so I had time for myself. So I lost 55 pounds. I was really proud of myself. So I did not plan and want to get pregnant. We have an 18-year-old, a 14-year-old.
Oh.
And my husband just moved back home after having an affair. Our marriage is still not like great yet. And so I get pregnant and my husband was not happy. So it started out, getting better, and then I get pregnant and he's not happy. But again, I can't explain it. Like I just chose to have a smile campaign, and he would say hurtful things. And I would say, I know who he is. He's scared. He doesn't really feel like this. He's not this bad guy. Cause that was the other thing. I used to think he was a really bad guy, but then I started, looking at all the evidence and realized he's actually a really good guy. I wouldn't have married a bad guy. So he would say all this stuff, but he didn't leave. He would act like, oh, I don't want a baby. I'm over 40 years old. I don't want a baby. And I'm thinking, neither do I. And so he would say things like he was going to leave. But he didn't leave. So I just remembered, well, he's here today. And then like the gifts just started coming. And our favorite place we used to go to was Jamaica. And he surprised me in February. So not even 2 months later, he takes me to a trip to Jamaica, which is our favorite place. And then even though he says, he doesn't want this baby, he splurges and wants to get a butler. So we went this place in Jamaica. They have butlers, suites. The old Anna would have never let him get it for me. I would have said that's a waste of money. We don't need to spend that. And I would have controlled and told him, how to spend the money. But he said this time he was like, well, I want you to have a butler because, you're pregnant. And if you need something. And I was just like, of course, I'll take a butler. I'm not going to deny a butler, and It was
Wow.
an amazing trip. We had so much fun. We laughed. It was fun. We had so much fun together. And we came home and just life started getting so much. I mean, it's just been getting better and better. In his company, he used to not let me get involved. Like I used to be really involved in the company. Then when things got bad, he did not want me to be involved at all in the company. He didn't want me to know anything about their financials. And he started just like bringing me into things. And I was like, wow, he trusts me, or before I would have probably found something critical to say, like, he needs my help. I'm probably a better business owner, which or something.
Yes.
Um, but so he started bringing me into things with his company. And,
He trusted you again.
and he trusted me. Oh, I totally forgot to mention the OW no longer works at the company.
Oh,
So that happened actually before he moved home. So I'm an awful storyteller, but anyways,
no, you're doing great. You're doing amazing.
so it just keep getting better. And I just at one point though, he said to me, because he would say often that he was really scared that this was fake, that this person I had become was fake. And
Because it was
again,
so different from before.
I was so different, but I felt like I was the same person. I was just like, I don't really think if anything, Laura, I felt like I was doing less. And I'm thinking, he acted like I was this great person. I'm like, I'm literally doing less. I have more time for myself. I was doing all these things to take care of myself. And I thought, I don't know. And so it would tell our pastor, I just feel like manipulated. I just don't want to have this happen. And then a year later, it goes back to how she was before, controlling and disrespectful. And I thought, I don't even really see how I changed. But again, because I feel like what made it harder was because he knew about you and made him feel like you had taught me something. And to be like manipulative to get your husband back. And I would say, well, why don't you listen to her? And we would talk about you often, actually. It's really funny. Along the way, because I wanted to help everyone. Now, once I discovered you, I wanted to tell everyone my story and try to get everyone on board. So far, I've only gotten one person. Most people are just not ready for it. And, which has been kind of discouraging because I'm like, this is life changing. I'm happier. My family's happier. My kids are happier. But he would say really cute things like we have two dogs, one's a girl, one's a boy, and the girl is really controlling. And he would say cute stuff like, I think you need to help to introduce her to Laura Doyle. And like, he would
Which is a compliment to you, Anna, right? He's like, oh.
So yeah, he would say stuff like that, or like that I should tell someone else about. He's like, oh, are you going to talk about Laura? And I'm like, of course. I tell everyone about Laura Doyle. And so yeah, we're on a first name basis. And but it would just be funny. It was just getting better and better. And so it still just keeps getting better. And then honestly, about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, he stopped mentioning that we might get divorced. But he would then started changing it to say, well, when the baby comes, I might just not be here. I might just leave and work a lot or something. Because they want to be around the baby. Like, I don't want a baby. But then it just started changing to just recently, like, this is crazy. For Mother's Day, he bought me a boat.
Oh.
And so I'm not even a gift person, but his love language is gifts. And so I've just been receiving. But what made the boat so special wasn't about the boat itself, is that he loves to fish, but he hasn't I realized I've been miserable. He hadn't taken care of himself in a long time either. And that's where I think the drinking and everything got in, so heavily into things. But when we talked about a boat before, he talked about buying a fishing boat. And a fishing boat, the type that he wanted, it would be you're completely out in the sun all day, and it's not really family friendly. And a week ago, we went to a boat show, and he saw this boat that is not a fishing boat, but it's this big boat that's completely enclosed cabin. So that way, like if it's raining or it's really sunny, you can be in a cabin. And he bought us the boat because he said, well, this is where we're at in our life right now. It's good for the family. our boys can be on it. And then he said, the baby, who the baby doesn't have a name yet, even though I'm 6 months pregnant. He's like, in the baby, this could be a good boat for the baby. And then he even fast forward said, like, in the baby, when he's like in 10 years from now, he can drive this boat. And
Oh,
he would just started bring up a lot of things about this baby that he didn't want. But things that he was doing for him, and our family, where before a lot of things was very selfish about like him. Things have become over the last 2 months, like escalated really quickly where it's about our family and back to where, because he's a good guy. I know this is always who he was. And it just got, like I said, it just gets better and better. And I was going to see where, this is another thing so when things are really bad, he used to say really nice things to me. And actually when our bio son was younger, our bio son would say the cutest things about me because his dad would say them. And so he would say really sweet things to me. And I remember a year ago, we were with my boys and going to dinner one night, and my husband was so mean to me and so critical in front of my kids. And he hadn't really done that. He would be critical to me and mean to me, but not normally in front of them. And then just last week or before this happened, I told him, thank you so much for making me feel like a princess. And he said, well, you should feel like a queen because you're my queen.
oh,
And it's like he started saying things like that, and just not just the words, but even little things like, I realize, and this sounds silly, but I will make everybody everything, but I don't do it for myself. So now that I'm pregnant, I know I need to drink a lot of water, but I don't want to go get the water. That sounds silly. And so I would ask my husband to get me water, and he brings me water. And I know that's silly, but I never would ask for that. And actually, like, he brought me water, and he does things like that. And I ask for things. I realized I was complaining so much, and I don't have to complain. And he just does things for me, because he wants to. And so actually everything I've asked, like one of the things I told him I wanted to do, is some of the things I started doing was just giving up control of money. And so I realized one of the problems in our marriage before as well was that I made a lot of money. I actually ended up making more money than he did. And I stopped asking him. I would just spend. I would go buy a car, an RV. I was so disrespectful without consulting him. But when I found you, I realized how hurtful that was. So I started just asking him. I could spend money on this or that. And he would always say yes. But the old me would have thought he would have said no. And so I wouldn't have asked because I didn't think I deserved it. And now whenever I ask for anything, he's like, yeah, do it. And so one of my hopes is actually I've wanted to do, be a certified coach actually. And he was like, yeah, you should do it. I'm waiting right now only because I'm 6 months pregnant. I decided I don't need to take anything else on, but that's once I have this baby, that's something I want to do. But I'm not through it yet, but it's gotten so good. And honestly, and not to overstep what you're going to ask me next, if you would ask me now, I would say my husband is not verbally abusive. I would even say that's not who he is. And he's not an alcoholic. Like,
narcissist.
he's not a narcissist. Like, he's a wonderful man. He loves his children. I would be like, he's a great family man. He loves his kids. He loves me. He's a great guy. And he always has been. And I realized how much I was pushing him and controlling him. And it makes me feel awful that he had to survive that, endure that for 20 years. So,
Anna, this is an amazing story. I mean, there's so much in this, and you tell this story so accountably because there's there's two sides to every story, right? But I feel like one side of the story could have been like, my husband was verbally abusive, alcoholic who cheated on me. And therefore, like you could have said like, that's it. The marriage is over. I'm not going to put up
Yeah.
with that. And I think
Yeah.
a lot of people would say that, right? Like just on the
Yeah.
surface, oh, you cheated.
Oh,
Like
my kids thought I should have
your kids thought you should get divorced.
at the time. Yeah. They were
Yeah.
like, why would you accept that? Um, and I had said to them, I told them that, what he did was not excusable, but how I disrespected him was not acceptable either. And I said, like, two wrongs don't make a right. But, so I let them know what I felt like I had done wrong.
Wow.
And
Who does this?
yeah, so it was really, I apologized a lot to my children, to my husband. Um, Even when, it wasn't like he groveled and apologized to me, but I just felt so accountable when I realized the damage I had done. I was like, I can't fix him. I can't fix my kids, but I can work on myself. So
Amazing. I mean, that's a hard place to get, right? Like that's a very painful moment. I remember that moment too, like going, oh no, look what I did, and feeling terrible. But it kind of just propelled you to become your best self
yeah, and to get ridiculously happy.
and to get ridiculously happy. And that propelled him to buy you a boat and call you his queen.
Yeah.
And
It's
make plans
also,
for the baby. And
yeah, this other parts, I got to tell you, you might not want to have this in here. So I realized too, I, so this is funny, but I realized I used to be a very sexual person. I loved having sex with my husband, but somewhere along the line, I guess I was too busy controlling that I was exhausted to have sex. So I stopped wanting to often. It was kind of a chore. But when I started getting ridiculously happy, I wanted to have sex all the time. And it was weird because he was like, he jokes that he thinks that you teach people to fix your marriage, just basically have sex all the time and do all this stuff. And I was like, she actually never teaches that. So he always jokes that Lord Doyle is the one, like he said to me, like, just because he would want to have sex like early in the morning. And I'm like, I'm not having sex with you in the morning. Like, no. And then I started waking up and like wanting to have sex with him and just being like, and then I realized, because a lot of he'd say, well, this is controlling. And I realized I was trying to do so much, but I ended up becoming a really good receiver. But yeah, I just started having energy to have sex with my husband. And now I'm having sex every day. Like, and I used to never have, it was like a chore, like go like, oh, if we can go 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And now I'm like super turned on by my husband. I would have sex with him every day and he does something. And I'm just like, wow, you're super sexy. Like, and so he thinks that's part of Laura Doyle, what she teaches students.
that I sell aphrodisiacs or something
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
website and
That's
get a
what he
subscription.
Yeah. That's what he thinks. Yeah.
I mean, I love it. So you restored the passion in a big way.
Yeah.
It doesn't
Yeah.
sound like it ever left. It never really left.
Well, it did because I was so mean. There's so much I could go on. I realized I was so mean to him. I would criticize about his weight. So I wasn't even, there was a period. I mean, I've always loved him, but I don't think I was like attracted to him because I think I saw all the negative and I started, what you focus on is what you see. And I think I just started focusing on so much negative that I wasn't attracted, which now I even wonder if, I was like, did I not get pregnant because before all these years, because was holding like on to anger and bitterness because I was like this perfect wife and I wasn't, he wasn't giving me. So I wondered that because I was like, now I'm receiving. And I mean, cause for so many years, like we couldn't conceive. And, so I kind of wondered, did that have anything to do with me, like giving up everything? And I mean, I didn't want to get pregnant, but it's just it's comical. So
yeah, it's comical. I mean, it sounds like you're on board now. So,
well, I just believe like, everything life is amazing. And so this child has a purpose. So
but so it sounds like what I hear you saying that is The skills fix infertility.
I don't know. That might be because I am so I
I'm
love
adding
my
that to the list, Anna.
yeah. I think it does honestly. Like and it makes like you're supposed to like your sex drive is supposed to go down as you're older
Yeah.
and I'm literally I wake up at 5 a.m. and I'm ready and like before like yeah, it fixes infertility probably. It probably fixes like I've just like I don't need any you don't need any store-bought items. I'm immediately I see my husband, I'm aroused because like I just realized how much he loves me and he does want to make me happy. Cause that was the other thing too. In this, there was so much in this that I've realized like I was like, I could go on for years about this, but I used to not think he wanted to make me happy. And I remember when we're going through this, I said something to him and he's like, of course, that's all I've ever wanted to do was make you happy. And now I just really, truly, even if things crappy happen, I think about, okay, how does he really feel versus the moment? Because he could have things going on in his own life and, all this stuff. He's still struggling with like PTSD, and that is real. But it's not everything is about me. And so I would take those hurtful moments or where things don't go right. And I would really just think back, does he really care about me? Does he love me? And where's the evidence? And so I would think about these things and I kind of got obsessed because I just realized he does so much for me and loves me so much. I started just thanking him all of the time, like, thank you for doing this or this. And he's like, you don't have to thank me. And I'm like, but I want you to know, like, I see that. Like, I didn't see it before. I took everything for granted that he did do. So when I thought he wasn't doing anything before, I wasn't giving him credit for anything.
Wow. And so he wasn't used to you thanking him, and that so it kind of made it uncomfortable, it sounds like.
Yeah. Like, cause I started thanking him all the time and apologizing a lot, cause every time it was like I said, between you and God, I would remember I would watch a pod or listen to a podcast or listen to the book. I've now read your books like 7 or 8 times because I just felt like I was getting so much from it. And, but I would reread them and then I would have a painful memory of something I did really hurtful to him. And so I just felt like I need to apologize. Like, I don't want him to think that's okay. And, he would say, you don't need to apologize or I've been doing this. So he would say sometimes crappy things like, well, you've been doing this for years. And I would say, well, it's not okay anymore, and I'm sorry. So
Oh,
yeah, there was a lot of duct
it
tape
was
going on.
blown him away, right? Like, did he fall out of his chair when you started saying that? Like, who is this?
I,
What has she done with
yeah.
Anna?
Yeah. Yeah. He's definitely thinks like, I've been like abducted by aliens or something. And this is not, yeah, this is not me.
But you have it. This is just the real Anna, like the best
This is
Anna.
me. That's what I said. I realized this is like why I say you've saved my life is because I was doing so much for other people. And that's who I am. I love doing things for people, which is one thing I struggled with because you talk about not doing things for like your husband. I realized, but you also said like, I know best. I realized part of who I am, I do love doing things for him. So there are special things I like to do for him. Like I like to wake up and make him coffee. He makes me breakfast. I mean, he makes me water at night. I make him coffee in the morning. But I just realized I really wasn't being true to myself. And so now what I love is I realize when if I'm honoring myself, I have to think about that. Am I honoring myself? Is this going to make me happy? And so I'm not doing things that don't make me happy anymore. Or that don't make me unhappy. That I don't do things that make me unhappy. And so I just found like I actually have more space to be happy, to doing things for myself.
And so making his coffee makes you happy.
Yeah. And getting trips. And yeah, it makes me happy because then I'm like, it makes him really happy to have coffee in the morning or, so, and that, yeah. So
you really are a good wife. Like it sounds like you're the good wife you set out to be now.
Yeah. I'm getting there. I'm not perfect. And I tell them that too, because I'm like, I'm just a mere mortal woman. So I was like, I still have a lot of work to do, but it is just getting better and better. And I'm really excited to have this child because I realized how controlling I was before and things that I thought to protect myself. And now I'm just having fun. I'm like, before I would have not done things because I'm like, oh, like, for example, we had a boat when I was pregnant before, and I made him get rid of the boat because I thought, I'm not going to go on this boat. I might have a miscarriage and I'm not going to take this baby in the boat because that's too unsafe. And I'm like, but I love having a boat. And so I'm excited. Like, I do things to have fun now. I'm going to, I don't worry about if I'm going to have a miscarriage before I realized that was controlling me so much. And now I'm like, well, we joke it's a Viking baby because I'm 40 and I'm like, this Viking baby, he's going to have to just have gone through things and experience life. And I'm not going to do anything to put him in danger, but I'm living my life now. I just didn't live before. And I'm just, it's funny. My husband will say, well, you didn't like that before. And I was like, I didn't give myself the opportunity to know if I liked it. And now I'm discovering new things I like. And just, yeah, so it's been really fun.
And as you're saying all that, you just seem like you have a big smile. You're just glowing. Like you just seem full of life. You seem vivacious. It's so attractive. And I bet your husband's just crazy about that part too. So,
Yeah.
I mean, what an incredible accomplishment this is to come through all the trials in your marriage with narcissism, drinking, verbal abuse, cheating, and now to just like be so glowing, be such an example of what's possible to have this loving family that you have now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm super impressed. What would you say to somebody who is where you were, like an alcoholic, narcissistic, verbally abusive cheater, and she wants what you have now, where you're his queen? What's your tip for her?
First, she needs to read The Empowered Wife and own her side of the street and, work on, I find so much with women, they're not taking care of themselves. So I would say actually learn to honor yourself and take care of yourself. And, it's like, if you want this happy marriage, if you want this, it doesn't even feel like work. So I don't feel like it's putting in work, but it's putting in the effort to make yourself better, to help those around you, that's how I feel like. So, but I do think it's necessary sometimes to go through these painful things, because if I found you when things were good, I would have never listened to you. It had to have been really painful. Even I wasn't doing things great from the beginning, but I unfortunately hate to admit it had to get really bad, because I probably would have never taken any advice that you had to give, if it wasn't so painful, because I would have thought, no, I'm the perfect wife. I don't need to do anything different. He needs to change. So
are you saying that these things that happened that were so painful, those are actually gifts that have helped you? I mean, it sounds like you wouldn't trade it.
I wouldn't. It's been motivating to me. And like I said, not even motivating of getting my husband back, but motivating for myself to be better. Like, like I said, what was really a driving factor was, do I want my children to marry a woman like I was, a wife like I was? And I do not want my sons to have a disrespectful, controlling wife.
And now they've got a model of what a respectful, receptive, happy wife looks like.
Yeah.
So that's quite a gift to pass on as your legacy.
Yeah.
What would you tell Anna if you could go back in time and tell her what you know now?
You really have to honor yourself and take care of yourself. And your husband does love you. I think I just didn't believe that I was loved. And so you come from a place of hurt, and you're defending and protecting yourself. Yeah.
Yeah. Beautiful.
It's like, find Laura Doyle, somehow. Find Laura Doyle.
Because we're going to have a great friendship.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh. Well, Anna, congratulations. Your story is amazing. It's riveting. It's inspiring. I want to give you the Best Wife Award. You richly
Thank
deserve
you.
this for really keeping your eye on the ball, for being so loving to and so forgiving, for being so accountable and so courageous to go through all those things and then really still see a possibility, not just a possibility, but like have that conviction, like this is the man I chose and I chose him for good reasons. And those reasons
Yeah.
are still there. And who does that? I mean, not too many people. It's a huge accomplishment. And I just want to congratulate you.
Well, thank you. This feels like I've listened to you like so many hours that this feels so fake. I feel like I'm in like a dream. So thank you, Laura, for doing what you're doing and you being vulnerable and telling your story because, um, I would have never listened to you if you didn't have a painful story too. So
Gosh. And I'm so glad we found each other. And I'm excited that you're going to become a coach, after the baby's born, because I just feel like let's spend the rest of our lives together, just lifting each
I,
other up and lifting up the world.
that's what I want.
Me too. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your inspiring
Thank
story.
you.
This is great.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura.
For more of the proven secrets on how to make your marriage playful and passionate without his conscious effort, check this out.